Executive Director of the Newport Historical Society, and I'm speaking today with Ryan Belmore, who is the owner and publisher of What's Up Newp, online news source. So talk to us a little bit about what this crazy year has been like for a journalist.
It's funny because I'm getting little flashbacks and nightmares. Normally I'm not on this side of the table. Normally I'm on your side. But I was thinking about the last year, and it has been a crazy ride in every possible way. With the pandemic, I was thinking back to last March, a year ago now, and just how everything shifted for local community journalism, which is what we try to do. It went from being the source to find out where live music's taking place in Newport to being the source for life-saving information for your loved ones, for yourself, where to find vaccines, the governor's press briefings, how to washing your hands, whether staying 6 feet away. If you think to the conversations in the press briefings from the very beginning, it was okay to elbow bump and it was okay to, shake hands with your foot. That week between the 10th and 17th, it was just life-changing. And I remember saying to she was my fiance at that point, this is going to affect every part of our lives in some way, and we have to be ready for it.
Was there a single incident that really stands out for you as you look back over the course of the year?
I think there is. We were scheduled to get married in June of last year, and I knew that it was going to have this lasting impact when all of my groomsmen texted me because they were supposed to pick up their suits and said that they were out of work, that they had been laid off. And then when every single announcement that comes out and press release has an impact on your personal business and your friends' businesses, as well as your upcoming wedding.
Were there particular articles that you ended up doing that stand out for you as being really emblematic of the time?
There was. We got together as a team, and I'm the only full-timer, and we have about 12, 13 contributors, and we got together and said, we have to really come together and be a resource for the community. We do a lot in the music and a lot in the events space, a lot of friends in the hospitality. And we looked around and saw that, local papers were furloughing folks, and local papers were cutting back on pages. And so, we put together a guide where it was a user submitted, and people could put their Venmo and PayPal information, and people can go and donate. And then we did it for musicians. One day I just woke up and said, you know what? I wonder how everybody's doing. And I sent a newsletter out at then we were probably about 20,000 newsletter subscribers. And I just said, how are you doing? And, just said, reply. People were locked in their homes, didn't know when they were getting out. And I feel still today for the people that are single, widowed, just by themselves every day. And I sent how are you doing? Let us know, reply, we're here for you. And the replies I got back to that were just amazing. And I replied to every single one of them. There was an elderly woman who lives in Portsmouth who said she hadn't been able to get any groceries delivered and needed food. And was wondering if I could put her in touch with somebody who could deliver her some food. And I called a restaurant in Portsmouth and said, hey, let's do something for this woman. Here's her address. Let's bring her a week's load of food, pre-cooked meals, because she said she couldn't cook. And we made phone calls for people, and we connected loved ones, and stepping off the journalism perch for a minute and just being a real person, which we try to do every day, and just ask people, how are you doing? And, I hope that more and more people, think about doing that these days. Even, we're going to be living through this for many more months, and just don't forget the power of those words and the power of actually caring how somebody's doing.
Do you feel like you became more centered in the community as a result of all this?
I do. I think we were known, We just entered our 10th year, and you know, we have always been a community news service and community organization. We want to help everybody that we can, but all of a sudden we went from publishing about 200 stories a month to in March last year we published more than 400, and we had to do that like many businesses and many organizations and many nonprofits. We had to produce more with a lot less income,
Right.
because our advertisers all closed their doors. And the first thing I did was reach out and say, stopping advertising until you're back open. And I'm a part of a national news group. And at that point, I had been exploring some other opportunities and turned to readers to get to ask for support to help us get through. And readers carried us through the last year. We would not still be standing if it were not for readers. And I swear on that. We love our advertisers. Our advertisers have kept us going for now 10 years. But, when all of a sudden we had to produce double, triple the amount of work, and I still wanted to pay all of our writers because they're out of work of their normal jobs because everything's closed. That is really when I realized that, we're ingrained in this community. Some people have given $100, which is amazing. But when I see people, and I don't want everybody that gives 100 to do this, but when I see people give $2 a month, I think, man, that $2, it probably means so much to that person, and that they could reach in their pocket and say, you know what, I want to support you in some small way. It just, takes my breath away.
And that's a positive story in a way, right? You embedded yourself in the community, people responded. Do you feel like there were other positive things that happened during this year?
We did a series for a couple months last year of unsung heroes, the people that were making the masks, the restaurants that were making meals and delivering them to nurses. COVID will consume anybody. It will certainly consume, and it is an extreme challenge on the mental health of any journalist who's covering it now for more than 365 days. And how we got through that was by looking for the positive. When a restaurant's reopening, when a nonprofit is hosting a fundraiser, so many nonprofits went to virtual fundraisers. Where can we find good is a question we tried to ask, and tried to go out and find. You can't just keep hitting people with, here are the COVID statistics, blah, blah amount of people died with COVID. If there wasn't positive, everybody has a story. So let's go out and interview a business owner, and I'm sure there's something in there. We're not spinning stories, we're just highlighting the positive that's out there in our community. And there, in so many ways, our community came together. I remember, after George Floyd attending the events, the prayer vigil that was held out near White Horse Tavern, and I think it was the first time people had been out of the house, or people that felt they needed to get out of the house. And, at that point, she was my fiance. It was her first time out of the house. And she broke down, and just seeing the community come together for something like that, as well as the incident itself, brought a lot of emotion.
Let's flip the coin a little bit. What was the worst moment for you?
I think it's ongoing. The toxicity and the hate and the racism that still rears its head in social media comments. And we post every story to social media. My staff knows this, that we are not going to be a home where anybody can post their misinformation or their hate or any of that. We delete and ban immediately. There's plenty of other places where you can post that nonsense. But I think the people that are constantly trying to fight facts or information or science, and that's been going on for years, and normally it would be around climate change or it'd be around something else. But when it's around something that's so personal, when people who have died from COVID, when people have been sick from COVID, when COVID has affected everybody's lives, and people are still sitting there with misinformation, and then when there's an incident such as George Floyd or the rallies or protests that took place in Newport, and just to see those comments from people live in the community. These people aren't strangers. They're not bots. They're not trolls. They're your neighbors, and that shines a little bit more because we're all on our computers all day long and our phones all day long. I think that's been the hardest part, is just that misinformation and people not being able to truly come all together as a community to fight COVID or some of the other incidents that have happened over the last 12 months. More people can participate in government actions now, which is another positive I should have brought up earlier, is, being able to participate and watch city council meetings and school committee meetings and all of that, or vote by mail, are all positives. But a lot of it is, I don't think people would ever say this person to person, and social media kind of flames it up. But when you recognize people's faces and names and know that they're spreading misinformation about COVID or about deaths or about where to get vaccines, we're playing with real people's lives and livelihoods right now, and that has been, if there's been a burnout factor in this, I don't mind working every single day, doing this every day. It's truly an honor to do what we do every day. The burnout has been dealing with that negativity and that toxicity, for not just me, but for journalists all across the country.
What should we be focusing on as we look ahead, as we look towards the end of coming out of this pandemic and the election's over? We still have racial polarization to deal with. What should we be worrying about? And you can answer this question as a journalist, as a Newporter, or just as a human, or all three, your choice.
I think we won't be able to solve anything unless we do it as a community. And until we can get our neighborhoods, our blocks, our streets, you don't have to agree on everything, but you have to be willing to listen. And too often these days, I'm just going to pick the last 12 months. Obviously, it's been going on longer than that. We won't even listen to our neighbors. We won't even consider their opinion or consider why they feel the way they feel or why they think the way they think. I don't think social media is the enemy, because these comments are happening, in these thoughts and these events are happening everywhere. Just look at there's negative to be found, and there's hate to be found everywhere. But everything involves community, and if we just thought about what can we do just to be a better neighborhood. Checking our neighbors, asking, are you okay? Put politics aside. Even if you take politics, why do they support that candidate? And, I don't think I'm old enough, but I would like to think 30, 40 years ago, people might have listened a little bit more about why somebody believed something. And, we see a lot of it going on in Newport right now with equity and the North End Urban Plan. And, people have it in their mind, yes, we should do this. No, we shouldn't do that. And, let's spend a couple more minutes listening to the other side before making a decision. And we'll all be rising ships if we all work together and we all share a little bit more love. You don't have to go hug your neighbor, but at least be willing to open the door and have a conversation with your neighbor.